What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Let me turn my light on. There we go. Now it's really recording. Today's video is going to be a rank 3 Professor X showcase. I wanted to start off just jumping right into it with the final phase of the Glykhan fight in Act 8, Chapter 4. Just going through the final phase because that's the quickest and the most fun phase. It's where you have to remove all of his punishments instead of granting him all the punishments. And right away you're going to notice that Professor X, his basic hits are very high. He's hitting 10k crits and 8k light crits. 10k medium crits and 8k light crits. That's ridiculous for just the base hits of a character. I believe Professor X has one of the highest base attacks in the game, kind of similar to how Omega Sentinel just hits ridiculously hard at her base. And that's just another cherry on top of the amazing character that is Professor X. 22k heavy crit. There's no boosts here. The only boost I'm running is a mutant power back boost, and you'll see why in a second here. I'm running that. I just need to build up to my special 2. But we're a Horseman of Apocalypse here, so that's helpful for the prowess. Again, I just want to show you the final phase of this fight and not anything more. I don't think I really need to show anything more because it's basically the same fight 3 times. It's just the final phase is the one where you can kind of go crazy with the power back boost. As you can see here, that was a ridiculously powerful special 2. Gonna go for another one here. 142. And he's basically dead. All I have to do is land one more of those. And now we just have to survive, which we end up doing. I'm not going to waste your guys' time through the whole indestructible. We end up surviving. I get the counter here, and that's Glykhan down. And this whole fight, unboosted in terms of attack boost, took roughly 6 minutes. So definitely solid. Now let's get into some actual full fight gameplay. This is Abyss of Legends Luke Cage. Professor X is actually pretty solid for Luke Cage. There's a specific strategy that you can employ to use the falter to get intercepts. I think I do some of that here. I know I definitely use it at some point during the fight, but I also go for normal intercepts as well. Luke Cage is still one of the hardest fights in the entire game. Even now, you know, Abyss is 5 years old almost. It'll be 5 years old in January. And Luke Cage is still one of the hardest fights in the entire game. And it just goes to show, you know, Abyss is arguably more difficult than Necropolis. Like, especially when Abyss came out. So for the time, I think Abyss was probably harder than Necro. And I still think some Abyss fights are harder than some Necropolis fights. You know, Luke Cage being one of them, the Collector obviously being another. So the name of the game here is to land intercepts to remove the unstoppable and unblockable. I just went for a special intercept there. Very nice that we were able to land that. Luke Cage is aggressive, but he goes on these passive spurts from time to time. If you know my channel well, you know that Luke Cage has kind of been my punching bag for a couple of years at this point. So I know his tricks very well, and sometimes he just does not want to cooperate, and there's nothing you can really do. But, like I said, you can use the falter to get the intercept. That works for champions like Ghost as well. So if you wanted to use Ghost here, you could totally do that. There's a lot of different ways to land the intercept to remove the unstoppable and unblockable node from Luke Cage here. You'll notice that in a lot of these fights, I don't just immediately go for a heavy charge into another special 2. And that is because the AI is much more likely to just straight up attack. Right here, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I don't remember. I recorded this yesterday. But because I don't go for back-to-back special 2s with the bonus channeling charges, it's because the AI is a lot more likely to just stand up and hit me, and I don't have enough time between the animations of charging my heavy and throwing the special to actually react fast enough. Now, if I'm a certain distance away, I can do it without them hitting me, but when you're right up against the wall like that, you either need to use the falter to get the special off, or just go for a parry and do the same thing. You get the special off either way. So there's definitely a finesse to playing Professor X well and utilizing all of his abilities to the maximum potential. It's not easy. Professor X is pretty difficult to play at a super high level. I'm thankful he dashed in there because he definitely didn't have to. But like I said, Professor X is difficult to play at a super high level because there's just a lot of managing things that you have to do, like a lot of juggling with the prowess, your channeling charges, especially if you're unawakened, like my Professor X. You have to worry a little bit more about your channeling charges than you typically would, because when you're using a Professor X that is awakened, you passively gain channeling charges up to 75. So you don't have to worry about the channeling charges getting to max ramp because you're basically going 3/4 of the way there from the awakened ability. So it is a lot harder to use him unawakened for long form content, but if you're a Professor X Pro and you've used him for a while and you just get the 7-star like me and you have him unawakened, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Yeah, it's nice to have and I would like to get him awakened, but if you can get good at Professor X unawakened, using him awakened is just it's cakewalk. It really is. So we're just ramping up here. The strategy for Luke Cage is a little different. The prowess ramp up is kind of staggered because there's certain moments where you shouldn't hit him, either because he's unstoppable or because he has the indestructible. So it does take a little bit more time to get Luke Cage down than other Professor X fights with less health. You'll see going forward here that a lot of fights are just significantly faster because there's no need to go for these really weird intercepts and stop throwing specials when there's indestructible involved. You don't have to worry about that for basically every other fight aside from Luke Cage. So he's about halfway down now. We only have 23 prowess. You're going to notice in especially the Necropolis fights, Professor X at a 7-star rank 3 level, he doesn't need a lot of prowess to get going. Most of these fights, they don't last over 30 or so prowess. Like, most of the fights are basically over by the time I hit 30 prowess. So, it really is ridiculous. I was checking if the duration of the prowess was about to expire. I didn't know from the small screen that I'm watching this back on. But Professor X at a 7-star level, you know, I thought the 6-star Professor X was pretty strong. The 7-star Professor X is just a whole other ball game, and I'm so happy I took him to rank 3 without any hesitation, because this guy, you know, again, if you're fans of the channel, I made a video, I've made several videos about him in the past, including a how-to guide on how to use him properly with the proper use of his channeling, and using the channeling to get an additional prowess like I do right here. Channel, prowess when I throw the special, and then if I were to cancel my channeling, I would get an additional prowess. So if you're not familiar with how Professor X works, you need to build up your channeling charges to 100, and then once you reach 100, the next time you throw a special attack, you enter Mind Control. And during Mind Control, Professor X has basically his built-in special reserve, or power reserve node, where his special attacks cost, I believe, up to 70% reduced power, and you can spam specials continuously. Now, if you just wanted to spam specials back and forth, like if you're running a power back boost per se, and you just didn't care about the additional prowess, then that's fine. But if you're ramping him up and you actually want to use him for long form content, then you ideally want to go for a special attack, either block or hold heavy to channel so you get the additional prowess, and then when you throw the next special, you get another prowess. I'll show it here at the beginning of this. I think this is the Killmonger fight. Yeah, this is Abyss of Legends Killmonger, so I'll show off more of what I'm talking about here. Boy, what is going on with the quality of this fight here? I have absolutely no idea. Wow, this fight quality is terrible. So is this one. What the heck's going on with these two Abyss fights here? I have no idea. Well, just in case the quality doesn't spike at some point, I'm going to skip towards the end of this video, and I'm going to show off what I mean by the channeling with the heavy attacks and whatnot. So I'm going to channel into a Special 3 here, and typically the Special 3 gives, you know, 1 to 4 prowess depending on your persistent charges. So right now I channeled into a Special 2, that gave me a prowess. I dash back to refresh, I channel into a Special 1, there's 1 prowess. I block, I channel again, and I go from 26 to 28. So I'm probably just going to skip over these fights if the quality doesn't bump up. I am not sure what is going on here with some of these fights. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with some of the Abyss fights. I had a couple of Abyss fights to show you. Like, here's Abyss Gladiator Hulk, and the quality is just terrible. I have no idea why it would be so bad. But I'm going to show this just for the sake of having it in there. Again, I apologize for the quality being less than ideal. I really don't know what happened in the process of saving the file. But you're going to see that Abyss Gladiator Hulk, he has a damage cap, so you can only deal damage with bursts of energy, and Professor X's special 2 is hitting the damage cap every single time. The bursts of energy damage are cutting through that damage cap like no tomorrow. Yeah, I really have no idea what happened with these videos. I'm not sure if it's a... Well, here's the Yellowjacket fight. Okay, that's very strange. I'm not sure exactly what happened with the original 2 fights, but luckily I didn't need to show you the Gladiator Hulk fight. But here's Abyss Yellowjacket, so I will show you this fight since I was able to get the quality to work. Abyss Yellowjacket's kind of a tough fight because you don't really have a lot of room to take damage, because if he throws that special 2 and puts that long power sting on you, that's going to deal 10% of your health every time you activate a special attack. So ideally, you just force block the entire fight, and you never let Yellowjacket throw a special 2. Now, of course, he throws a special 2 while I'm hard blocking. Just great. Awesome. Love to see it. But doesn't matter. We have health to spare. We just don't have a lot of health to spare. So we throw the relic, we charge into the special 3. After this special 3, I should have 5 prowess, 4 from the persistent charge, and 1 from the channeling. So right away, at 6 prowess, the critical hits are already hitting the Abyss damage cap. This is the beginning of the fight, and he is already down over 10% health. 5.7 million health is already down 10% within the first 60 seconds of the fight. So that right there should show you how ridiculous Professor X is. That was on me. I shouldn't have thrown the heavy. I thought he was going for a heavy attack of his own, but he just finished the combo. So I got lucky there that he didn't punish me, but he did end up throwing another special 2, so that's another 10% health that I am losing whenever I throw my next special 2. But, I mean, I don't want to just keep saying the same thing over and over during this showcase, because it's kind of a long video. It's going to probably be like half an hour of just Professor X gameplay. But this is the last Abyss fight, so there won't be any other Abyss fights once I finish this showcase here. Or once I finish this Yellowjacket fight here. But you're going to see, we're barely ramped up here, and I'm already hitting the damage cap. This is one ramp up. One ramp up after the special 3 with the initial prowess gain, and the specials are already doing 5-figure numbers in white, and the crits are hitting the damage cap. Every crit is hitting the damage cap. It's just insane. It really is just ridiculous. So now he ends up throwing a couple of special ones. Yellowjacket is just not my friend right now. I end up getting stunned by that, and then the power stings expire really fast. I end up wasting my falter. I'm trying to wait out that second power sting. Luckily, he doesn't punish me too much, and I'm able to get to my special 3 again. At this point, I'm just racing to finish this guy as fast as possible. There's another 85k crit. The burst damage from the special 2 is up to almost 60,000 now. It really is just ridiculous. The one thing I do love about the 7-star Professor X in particular, sorry that my shirt is kind of like dangling off my neck here. The one thing I do love about the 7-star Professor X is the ramp up is so much, it's so reduced to get the damage that you want. You only need around 15 prowess to start hitting ridiculous numbers that basically no other mutant aside from maybe Storm X and OG Storm can hit. And, you know, I think Professor X is probably a better character than, you know, Storm and X and OG Storm. But the prowess gain, the only characters you can compare it to are those two, because those two have ridiculous prowess. So, it's just insane. And Professor X can actually go higher. Professor X's cap on prowess is 103, whereas OG Storm's cap is 99. So Professor X technically has stronger prowess and can ramp up more prowess than Storm. I believe each of his base prowesses are, was it 40%? It's either 36 or 40%. You know, I'm going to look at... Oh, okay, perfect. I just swiped past the fight. Alright, let's just get to the end here. I'm going to look on my iPad really quick just to tell you the exact number that his prowess percentage is. And the thing about it is, that base number, if you have him awakened, that base number actually goes up because your prowess potency is increased depending on the opponent's power bar. So, I believe his special 3 prowess is 60% each, but I'm going to confirm right now. So his base prowess are 40%. So each prowess is a 40% prowess. So right then and there, that's pretty ridiculous. And then his special 3 prowess is 60%. So you can only have 4 of those, so that's a max of 240% prowess from the special 3 alone. And then your regular prowess stack up to 99. So you can just imagine what 4,000% special damage increase looks like with a champion that not only deals ridiculous base damage and has a high crit rate, but also deals burst damage on the special 2. It's just absolute insanity. So now we have Necropolis Odin, and the next couple of fights are in Necropolis. This whole lane, this whole lane is absolutely ridiculous. He takes out 4 of the champions on this Odin lane, and you're gonna see that the damage, it goes so high. It goes ridiculously high in such a short amount of time. I'm trying to push Odin to his special 3 so I can tank it and use Heimdall to get the bonus buffs on Odin, so I don't have to worry about maintaining 6 buffs on Odin. I can just have him have his additional armor, fury, and aptitude, and I can just play the fight essentially as normally as I would with any other character, you know, like a Kushala or something like that. So now we've done that, and now the name of the game is just, this is Big Odin. There's nothing else going on here, because Professor X is immune to reverse controls. In this whole lane in Necropolis, it reverses your controls after the opponent's special attack for 8 seconds. Professor X is immune to that, because he is immune to reverse controls. So, not only does he have insane damage and insane utility, but he also has the immunity to reverse controls on top of it. So he has the ability to bypass, miss, and evade. He has the non-contact hits. He has energy damage on his hits instead of physical. He has a near infinite prowess ramp up. It can go up to 103 at its max stack. He doesn't need to be awakened. And on top of all of that, he is an option for reverse control content. So I genuinely think that Professor X is one of the most well-designed characters in the entire game. I think if I had to name a mutant that may be better overall in terms of design, I think the only one I could think of is Onslaught. I genuinely think that Professor X is one of, if not the most well-designed mutant characters in the entire game. Yes, he's very strong, and yes, he requires some finesse and technique to play, but it's not so grand that you can't learn. It's not so limiting to where, you know, sometimes when you're using champions like Tyra or Quake, even though no one really uses Quake anymore except for very specific instances, the playstyle can be limiting because of how rigid it is. Rigid it is. Enunciate. Professor X, especially at the 7-star level, he feels so much easier to play for the average player, because the prowess that you need to start dealing ridiculous damage is so much lower than it used to be. The 7-star stats, you know, especially with the crit stat focus and the challenger rating, it just makes him feel so much easier to get going compared to his 6-star counterpart. Because I feel like you didn't really notice the damage from the 6-star Professor X until around, I don't know, 25 or maybe 30 prowess. With the 7-star Professor X, you notice the damage at around 10, 11, maybe, you know, 9 even. I was hitting the damage cap in Abyss of Legends at 6 prowess on my special 2. The first hit did 85k, and that's the damage cap against the Abyss Yellowjacket. So, Professor X, he's just so crazy. I really can't stress enough how ridiculous this character is. And if you spend the time to learn the playstyle and you utilize his utility properly and you ramp him up and you actually learn how to use him instead of just, you know, spamming specials, which you could do, but it's not as effective as actually learning how to use him and using the kit to the fullest extent that you can. Because if you do that, Professor X is a whole other animal. We are taking off chunks of Necropolis Odin's health here. He's going from 50 to 45 in one special 2. 5% of his health gone in a single special 2. And we're not even at 30 prowess. We are just about done with the ramp necessary for Necropolis fights, because you're going to see most of these fights, they don't last much longer than 28, 29, 30 prowess. These fights are done in a fourth of his ramp. His total ramp is 103 prowess. That's the max ramp you can possibly get to. And these fights are down in 28, 29, 30 prowess. That's ridiculous. The runway that Professor X has for damage is insane. If Necropolis fights, which are the highest health pool fights in the entire game, if Necropolis fights can't survive a fourth of his ramp, going forward, what's gonna stop Professor X aside from a hard damage cap? Nothing. And even now, with a damage cap, the damage cap for, I think Necropolis' damage cap is 1.5%. Even with a 1.5% damage cap, that does not count bursts of energy damage. And if you're hitting the damage cap on every hit, it doesn't matter what the damage cap is, because you're hitting it. So, 35 prowess is, I believe, the final number, and Odin goes from 7% to 0 in that final special 2. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, okay, wrong fight. I didn't know that I was continuing the run. I thought I had split it up, but I didn't. So, now, we're just going down the same path. This is all the same run. This is from the same video, all back to back. This is Necropolis Clairvoyant. This is a very, very tough fight. One of the hardest fights in Necropolis. And you're going to see that Professor X, the reverse controls immunity makes this fight a lot easier to manage. And because of how he deals damage and how he barely needs to hit the opponent, you don't really suffer from the node. And you can let the placebo buffs that you gain get consumed instead of your prowess. So, now, you notice that I have 3 persistent charges instead of 2. That's because I'm running the Omega Sentinel synergy, to where whenever I win a fight, I gain an additional persistent charge. Instead of just gaining 1, I gain 2. So, getting that max ramp of 4 only takes 2 fights instead of 3 fights. So, that's a nice little synergy to have for questing stuff like this. Oh, this is not questing content. This is endgame Necropolis, but you know what I mean. I mean, you know, typical questing stuff. You know, if you're using him in Act 8 and you want to use him for a whole lane, this synergy is definitely nice if you end up going for your special 3. So, right here, this is 5 prowess, 78,000 damage, 78,000 crit, 5 prowess, 5 prowess, and he's dealing 80,000 damage on that crit. And these non-crits are in the 20 and 30,000s from the very beginning of the ramp. You guys gotta understand, that damage, you don't just find that damage every day. That damage, you know, some champions have to scratch and claw and, like, build up to this massive moment where they can finally hit a massive, you know, 80k crit or a 30k non-crit. Professor X, it takes him 60 seconds to go from nothing to 100,000 damage crit with 9 prowess, 118,000 with 12 prowess. I am almost hitting the damage cap, and this is my 2nd prowess ramp up. I am almost hitting the Necropolis damage cap with an unboosted 7-star Professor X. At least I believe he's unboosted. He might be, I might be running a small 20% boost, but regardless, even if I am running a boost in this fight, which I don't think I am, Professor X is hitting the damage cap in less than 2 minutes. And that prowess, if you play well and you manage the special attacks and you channel through and you channel up to your special 2 or special 1 and you just keep refreshing, because if you didn't realize from the gameplay here, or you don't really know Professor X, he can do one of, I think it's one of 2 things during channeling. He can keep channeling, and that just continues the charge gain. And if you are channeling when you activate a special attack, you gain an additional prowess. Or, if you dash back after you start channeling, you refresh your prowess duration. So right here, you see that 19. I am not going to dash in or, you know, tap my block. I'm going to dash back so I refresh the prowess duration. And now, those prowess buffs have all of their duration is reset. I reset every prowess buff. It's not just a couple, it's all of them. So, it's just, like, I lose the words sometimes because of how good Professor X is and how ridiculously powerful he is in long-form content. Yeah, he might not be the absolute best champion in short form, but even an Awakened Rank 3 can probably do some pretty nasty things. Like I showed at the beginning of this video, all I needed was 5 prowess, and I started to hit 80,000 damage crits on my special 2. So it doesn't take Professor X very long to get going. So an Awakened 7-star rank 3 could probably take a lot of champions out at that, 300,000 health range in relatively decent time. I wouldn't say he is the go-to champion for Battlegrounds because it's not really made for that, but I think an Awakened rank 3 7-star could probably work fairly well in certain environments because of just how ridiculously strong his prowess buffs are and how he scales as a 7-star in general. I think he would probably do well. So right here, Claire is already down to 40% health, and I only have 24, now 25 prowess. So it's ridiculous. I'm at 27 now. I think I get up to either 28 or 29. Yeah, here's 29, and that was almost a 200,000 damage special one and only one hit crit. 60,000 damage non-crits during that special one. It's just ridiculous, man. It's just truly ridiculous. And the next two fights are even crazier. The Shang-Chi fight is just so silly. The Shang-Chi fight is my favorite fight that I show off here because of how stupid it is. But Claire, I believe Claire is on the verge of death here because these specials are taking off 6 to 7% of her health every single time I throw it. She went from 14 to 7 right there. I got hit there. That wasn't intentional, but it ended up helping me finish off the fight. That whole special chain, three special twos, took off 21% of her health at not even 30 prowess. Insane. Absolutely insane. So I think I do either boost up or heal him here. I'm not sure. Yeah, I throw on some potions and I throw on some boosts. So those two first fights, the Odin fight and the Claire fight, those were unboosted. Now I have a boost on, and I healed Professor X up a little bit so I could survive just in case Shang-Chi wants to do any silly shenanigans like, critting into my block like he just did. But the Shang-Chi fight, now I am maxed out on my prowess from the Special 3, so all I have to do is throw one Special 3, and I gain all of my Special 3 prowess buffs because I have my 4 persistent charges. So now, all I need to do is, obey the rules of the fight and not take that burst damage from not listening to the Wushu strikes, and we're going to be golden. The name of the game for the Shang-Chi fight is you need to perform his strikes. It's kind of a fun fight, actually, because you're essentially using Shang-Chi's playstyle against him so you can survive. I don't mind it. I think it's actually kind of fun. So now I go for the Relic into the Special 3. Always heavy charge into your Special 3 to gain an additional prowess buff, because you're always going to gain one more than whatever your persistent charge says you'll gain. First Special 3, 119k crit. That's the damage cap if you weren't aware. The damage cap for these fights is around 118, 119k right there. There's the damage cap. That's the first ramp up. One ramp up, and Shang-Chi is already down 13% health. I don't know what more I can do or how more I can show this. All I'm running here is a little 20% green boost and a 10% attack boost. So this is not even that crazy, and this is just for the sake of survivability for the Shang-Chi fight specifically. I wouldn't need this. I didn't need this for the fights prior. I was hitting the damage cap at the same amount of prowess. The thing about prowess champions is attack boosts don't really do anything for them aside from increase their base damage, because the prowess is what's really increasing their attack. Now, special damage boosts, yeah, you'll see a difference more so in that department. But attack boosts, yeah, they're good for, like, the little numbers on the basic hits, but for the most part, Professor X isn't going to benefit too much from an attack boost, because prowess it's a flat percentage of special damage. It's not a percentage of attack, it's a percentage of special damage that goes up. So it's attack rating during specials. So the boosts are nice, and obviously boosts are always nice for characters, but for prowess characters like Professor X and Storm and Gambit, you're going to notice it on the basic hits much more than the specials themselves, because the specials are going to be hitting those ridiculous numbers with or without the attack boosts from, you know, green and orange, stuff like that. So, Shang-Chi is at 48%, 49%, 48%, 49, whatever. He's at 50% health, and we're only at 20 prowess. 4 of those are from the special 3, and 16 of those are from the base ramp up after using my special 3 and just going for my special 2 with the channeling and whatnot. So now I'm getting to the point where the basic hit, right there, the base hit, non-crit, is hitting the damage cap. So at this point, critical hits are almost irrelevant. The only place where they're still relevant is during the special 1 and the final hits of the special 2. The first hit of the special 2 is always going to hit the damage cap now. So now I'm at 25 prowess, and spoiler alert, Shang-Chi is going to be dead in this next rotation here. If you weren't already kind of guessing that was going to happen based on the health percentage he has. But I charge my special here. I'm at 26 prowess. Shang-Chi is going from 13% health to 5%, and now I go for one more special 2, and he goes from 5 down to 0. That was Necropolis Shang-Chi, around 8 million health if I'm not mistaken, in 3 minutes and 57 seconds. So, just utter madness. Utter and just total madness. Rank 3 Professor X is something special. So, my second to last fight here, I have the Necropolis Squirrel Girl. Like I said, Professor X could solo half of the fights on this path, so Squirrel Girl is part of that path. Now, what you see me doing here at the beginning is throwing my heavy the second the stun expires, because if you hit Squirrel Girl while she's stunned with a heavy attack, she goes unstoppable. So you shouldn't do that. But if you wait out the stun and then use your heavy, you can do that. But you see right there, I would have gotten punished if I didn't have my falter ready to go. So now, I'm charging my heavy into my special 3 after the relic. Try to do that as often as you can, because you get that bonus from the rampage. Your attacks deal more damage when you have that little orange thing up at the top, right next to the rupture on the right-hand side of it. And it only lasts for a little while, so you really want to get as much benefit of that as you can before it goes away. So now we are ramped up once again with the special 3 prowess. Squirrel Girl, just like Shang-Chi, is at 87% after one ramp up. And now the name of the game is to get Squirrel Girl back to her corner, so I can just kind of heavy spam in the corner, bait her special 1, and not really worry about being pushed away from my corner, because I want to keep as much ground as possible, and I don't want to get cornered by Squirrel Girl. Ideally, I get to my corner, but then I back up a little bit, because the closer I am to the center of the stage, the more time I have between special attacks to throw them without utilizing my falter, and I can keep my falter as a failsafe. So that is the ideal position to be in, is like right where I am right now is the perfect place to be. Towards Squirrel Girl's wall, but not pinned up against the wall. You know, it's not like Serpent, where you want to be right up against the wall and kind of butchering them down with your special 1 and your special 2. Professor X, he wants to be close to the opponent's wall, but he doesn't want to be directly on top of it, because if you're directly on top of it, like I mentioned at the beginning, you can't really throw consecutive special attacks with the channeling method, because the opponent is just going to immediately retaliate. So there is definitely a finesse with, you know, spacing when it comes to Professor X and managing him properly, but once you learn it, and it's not that difficult to learn, I just want to let you all know, it is definitely challenging. And I would say he's probably amongst the top 10 for hardest characters to use, but the entry-level damage that you get from using Professor X is high enough to where if you are seeing really good numbers from just going for basic special attacks, no channeling in between, like not throwing your heavy, you're just kind of throwing specials once you're fully ramped up, that should hopefully motivate you to want to learn how to utilize him to the fullest of potential. So Squirrel Girl is now at, what, I think that's 48%. Yeah, that's 48%. And we're just about done with this fight. I mean, I've only got a couple more ramp-ups to go. I think there's going to be this ramp-up, and then either 1 or 2 more, and Squirrel Girl is going to be dead. I got very lucky there that she did not attack me, so I was able to use my falter to go for some heavy spams, able to throw my special 2 once again, going from 31 to 23, and now the fight is basically over, because all I need to do is get back to my special 2 one more time at a full channeling ramp, and Squirrel Girl is going to be gone. So I'm just kind of trying to force the process a little bit by channeling my heavy in the air. Professor X has a really nice heavy recovery, so you can recover from his heavy attack very fast. So now Squirrel Girl's at 22%, and I hate to say it, but this is her last hurrah, because she goes from 14 to 12, and now I'm just gonna finish her off by throwing special ones, and yeah, that's all she wrote. That is all she wrote. Don't be afraid to go for special ones like I just did there, because you can definitely finish off fights that way. You can even do entire fights by just using the special one. So, the last little fight here I have to show you. I want to make sure this one loads in properly. This is the CCP testing map King Groot. I just made a video about this with She-Hulk taking this guy down in 7 minutes. This has 22 million health. And this is my Professor X with synergies, but no boosts. So I have synergies here, but no boosts, and he's unawakened, so I'm not benefiting from any of that prowess potency that you get from the SIG. So, oh, is this the whole fight here? Yeah, okay, well, I'm not going to show you guys the whole fight. I just want to skip towards the end to where I have my my prowess ramped up and ready to kill him. So 22 million health, right? 22 million health is more health than anything in the entire game has. This is the highest health pool available for any piece of content, and this is only for the CCP for the sake of testing. 7-star Professor X, unawakened, Horseman of Apocalypse, not fully ramped up with the Special 3. I'm only at 57 prowess, and King Groot is almost dead. 500,000 damage from that Special 2. Every hit of the Special 1 is dealing over 100,000 damage. 137. 384,000 damage crit. Again, the only thing going on here is the Horseman of Apocalypse synergy and the White Magneto pre-fight. Professor X is unawakened, and I am not fully ramped in terms of my Special 3 prowess. This damage is ridiculous, and this damage could be higher, because if I had him awakened, the prowess would be increasing their potency, so that the numbers from the specials would be going higher quicker, and it would be a faster fight because I wouldn't have to spend as much time ramping because my channeling would be building up passively. So I think that this is actually the end of the fight here at 14%. So 62 prowess. That is over half of his ramp, but that's still not, comparatively speaking, that is not anywhere near his ceiling. 64 prowess on this special 2, and King Groot is gone. Right here, we finished the fight with 66 prowess with a nice 419k crit. Professor X finishes this fight, this 22 million health King Groot, in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. Absolutely insane. So, let me know your thoughts on Professor X. Let me know. I want to finish off on a really cool frame here. Yeah, right here. Let me know your thoughts down below on Professor X. This was a really long video. I did this all in one take, as you can tell, because I had some technical difficulties earlier with some of the recordings, but I figured it out halfway through, so, you know, you take the wins as you get them. Let me know what you guys think of Professor X. Do you like him? Do you hate him? I hope you don't hate him because he's really cool. And let me know what other content you want to see with Professor X. I already have some ideas of what I want to do with him going forward, and that does mean more Necropolis content. So thank you all very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already, and hit the bell for notifications if that's something you're interested in. Be sure to check out the channel December 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be streaming the Karina's challenges that I was a part of, that I had a hand in creating. I will be streaming the challenge that I made, and then a couple other ones after that. So be on the lookout for that. Should be a really good time. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, everybody. Peace.